the planning board for July 6th, 2023. Everywhere, please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our agenda this evening, as it was posted on the town website of the town board, is as follows. Number one, Humboldt Country LLC site plan. Applicant seeks to operate a cannabis dispensary in the Walmart Plaza at 740 Hoosick Road. Humboldt Country LLC is the applicant. Number two, Maurice Muse LLC site plan. Applicant seeks to construct a medical building and a drive-through restaurant on the eastern portion of the site and a second drive-through restaurant on the western portion of the site at 727, 737 Hoosick Road, 4 Mohawk Avenue. Maurice Muse LLC is the applicant. Number three, Courier site plan and special use permit. Applicant seeks approval to convert an existing garage into a daycare center on property located at 215 Oakwood Avenue. Lynn Courier is the applicant. Okay. Our first order of business from the planning board point of view is the review and approval of the minutes for June 15th. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at those, and are there any corrections, additions, or amendments to those minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes as they were submitted. Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so passed. Okay, first on our agenda is the Humboldt Country LLC site plan. As you're coming up here, we did have the public hearing. There were comments made. We received your response to the comments. I would like to briefly go through those real quick, if we could.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in regards to late closing, due to public comments and due to the planning board concerns, Humboldt agrees to operate between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., Sunday through Saturday. I think that will address the concerns of being open later than 9 p.m. I believe everybody on the board had some concerns about that. What will be done about order queuing? We've discussed that several times as I've been here. Queuing will be within the secured entry to its fullest extent. Any additional queuing will remain outside with stanchions. We have a space to the right of our location that is going to be vacant for an extended period of time. So during what we expect to be the heightened rush of people, we'll have an opportunity to use that space to the right and not affect other businesses. Trash receptacles was a point of concern. The plaza has existing trash receptacles throughout the public sidewalks, and they are empty and maintained by the landlord, Johnston Associates. They will continue to empty and maintain those as they have done for years. Is there an adequate awning overhang to protect customers from weather? There's a continuous overhang over the entire strip plaza, so all locations are protected by that awning. The license holder is Humboldt Country. Does the entity have, including individuals with prior marijuana convictions? That's irrelevant to the application. It's a privacy issue. Armed guards will be on premise. What qualifications / certifications will they have? Security of the business will be certified. and licensed New York State armed security personnel. The operator has formerly used law enforcement personnel for other business security. Will the guards proactively protect customers outside? The security will be positioned primarily out front to assist with orderly queuing and will provide security to the customers and the business. It should be noted that security cameras will also cover the front entrance.
When you say out front, you mean out front inside the building?
So they're inside the building in the lobby. There's 2 security guards at all times. There'll be a security guard inside that's checking ID, and what I'm being told is the licensee expects the second security guard, when there's additional queuing outside, to be maintaining that queuing, orderly queuing outside,
On the sidewalk?
on the sidewalk, correct. Are customers permitted to carry concealed firearms inside and outside the store? Concealed firearms will not be permitted on the premises by the customers. Only licensed security staff will have firearms. The business will post no weapons on premises.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes,
You're not going to have like metal detectors?
that's correct. There's no anticipation for metal detectors.
So no firearms, that would be signage?
Signage, yes. Are there laws mandating the refusal of sale to customers who obviously are impaired? Details on enforcement: the business will post that staff will refuse to sell sales to any customer who are intoxicated or impaired. Any enforcement of that would have to be by local enforcement. They would have to contact local enforcement, and they would have to come and handle the situation, just like they would at any other establishment. Does federal law consider the store to be a legal operation? Adult use cannabis dispensaries are legal in the state of New York and in the town of Brunswick. Federal law does not apply. That's all the questions and comments that I believe were made.
Okay, does anyone have any questions regarding the responses?
There was just one comment that was made during the meeting about handling of cash deposits.
Handling cash deposits.
Yeah, or how-
Yeah, that's going to be governed by the licensee and their security.
Anyone else have a question?
Yeah, what sort of delays in the process are we looking at because of the state government?
I'm sorry, speak over the
The
line.
state government is dragging their feet on the approval process for these types of establishments, and I wonder how that's impacted your plan.
Well, it's previously impacted our plans. If you guys vote today to approve this, we could potentially start construction a week from Monday. So
There's been a lot of stories on the news that Governor Hochul is kind of stonewalling this whole process. I wonder if you're running into any of that.
Absolutely not.
No.
My own personal knowledge is that Governor Hochul is actually pushing for these to open, because there is cannabis product that has already been grown and manufactured, and there's no place to sell it as a
Well,
retail.
this is the crux of the matter is that in the news, it's been saying how people who are growers are suffering because they've got all this product, they can't move.
That's exactly what I
Because
just
there aren't any
said.
distribution centers, and the government is slowing that process down. So,
The government is trying to push as fast as they can. So I've been here now, this is my 4th meeting here. If we had approved this a month ago, we'd be opening in 2 weeks. If we approve this tonight, we're expecting to open the end of August. This is a fast-track project for the state of New York. I have already been contracted, as the general contractor, I've been contracted to start construction as soon as I have approval by the planning board and I have a plan. So optimistically speaking, I would get approval tonight, If we get a permit by early next week, we have a couple of items that have been brought up, and like, just some life safety issues, technical issues. Once that's handled and I get the permit, we're looking to potentially start construction on probably Monday, July 17th. With opening by the end of
Wrong
August.
in this, did I misinterpret what I've been hearing?
I think in this case, the horse is already out of the gate.
We are contracted and ready to
They're
go.
not really now involved with any type of delays or anything that is being advertised in the press.
Any perception in the press has nothing to do with this particular location.
Correct. We did receive a letter from the Steve Wilson, who is the fire chief of Brunswick Fire Company number 1, which is under your jurisdiction here. They're under your location. And he said, simply request upon approval from the Town of Brunswick Planning Board that keys for any locked areas at above retail establishment be given to Brunswick Fire Company number 1 Knox box for that 740 Music Road building. So they have requested a Knox box.
Absolutely. We have a surface applied Knox box figured in the project. We will coordinate with Mr. Wilson for the location that he would like it, just like we do on any commercial project.
Okay, you got this, Evan?
No, he
I
did
did
not.
not get it.
I'll get a copy to you.
Yeah, he further requests a walkthrough of the retail establishment.
I normally do that prior to opening. The fire department will be with me on the last walkthrough.
Yeah, typically, that's a typical matter that we'll go through with the fire department, with the building inspector. We'll check for emergency lighting, we'll check for exit lighting, and make sure that everybody is in agreement with the fire lighting prior to the certificate of occupancy.
Okay. Wayne, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Andy, do you have any questions or would like to make any comments? Would you like to explain the lead agency
Sure.
requirement that we have here?
So we'll make clear in the record that we did ask the applicant if there were any other involved agencies for purposes of seeker review, particularly since there's a state license involved. It still remains unclear, although Wayne and I reviewed this, and this is properly classified as an unlisted action under seeker, which allows the board to do what's called an uncoordinated environmental review. We'll just make it clear that in the event the board moves forward to make a seeker determination this evening, it will constitute an uncoordinated review under seeker.
Okay, one more time for the board. Is there any questions you wish to ask the applicant at this time? Does anyone see any reason why we can't move forward and the approval process on that? Okay, we don't need a seeker determination.
You do need to make a seeker determination, but it will be this board's determination alone, and all other agencies from which a permit or approval is required will need to make their own seeker determination.
Okay, and I will entertain a motion for a seeker declaration. Anybody wish to make that motion?
I'll make the motion for the seeker uncoordinated review negative declaration for this unlisted action at 740 Hoosick Road.
Do I have a second? Okay, is there any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? Now on the approval of the site plan. Any conditions that we wish to put on that?
Those closing hours?
Should we state the closing hours?
I think that'd be appropriate, so that'd be within the board's discretion as a condition to an approval. And the applicant has requested 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday through Saturday, so presumably 7 days a week, correct? In other words, so 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. There were other things in the response to comments that you could consider as conditions, dealing with the queuing. The response was queuing to the extent possible within the secured entry. And any queuing outside will be to the right and on the main entrance, utilizing the stanchions and retractable lines just for order along the sidewalk. That'd be an appropriate condition for you to consider.
And that's expected to be a limited time usage, just during the heightened.
Well, that's within the board's discretion. If there continues to be any overflow, even after your
Oh, yes.
first 9 months, then it needs to be order on the sidewalk, and the stanchions and retractable lines could be, again, within the board's discretion, an appropriate condition. If there's any queuing that goes outside. Now, the remainder of these, I would, and again, subject to the board's discussion or Wayne's input, are really getting into the conduct of the business rather than an appropriate land use or site plan, site condition. They are part of the record, but in terms of a land use condition, I think it's really more of a business regulation issue. This is licensed by the state of New York, as opposed to a land use condition. So I do think the issue of the hours and the issue of the queuing, which goes out onto the site of a plaza, are conditions for you to consider, but the balance of these, at least in my opinion, really go to regulating the conduct of the business, and this is licensed by the state of New York. They have exclusive jurisdiction of locations.
In addition to those conditions, is there any other conditions that the member would like to propose? And I'll entertain a motion to approve the site plan with those conditions. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay. I guess you're approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next on our agenda is the Reese News LLC. This is the 727, 730 Hoosick Road development. And while you're getting started, we once again, we received a letter from the fire company. I think that you did not get that, but we can get you a copy of that, and we'll review it real quickly after your presentation. Okay, great floor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tim Freitag here with Bowler Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant, Mary's News LLC. With me tonight is Colton Hill and Jared George, representing the applicant. We also have Gordon Stansberry with GTS Consulting, who is the traffic engineer who prepared the submitted traffic study to date. And lastly, we have Clinton Matson here with Lewin from Atlanta, Georgia, as a representative of one of the potential tenants for this development. The tenant for the 5,000 square foot quick service restaurant on the western portion of the site is here as well for any questions or comments from the board. we've been before the board at a workshop and at another conceptual level planning board meeting to introduce what we're looking at proposing here. It is a 3-building development. At our last meeting, there was a little discussion and request for additional information. So since then, we've resubmitted with a full EAF, a revised site plan, preliminary elevations, along with some sample photos of similar canopy structures that are proposed here for the quick serve restaurant on the western side of the site. As a reminder, the development includes multiple parcels that are proposed to be consolidated to 2 lots. On the eastern side of the site, we've got a proposed 2,350 square foot restaurant and then a spec 3,500 square foot building. Previously, we were thinking this was going to be a medical use. We're about 75% sure it's going to switch over to a retail, so the application has been revised to change to spec retail for that building as of right now. And then on the western side of the property, this is a proposed property line. The remainder, 1.35 acres, will be for a quick serve restaurant with drive-through. This site plan is generally the same as we presented at the last meeting. A couple revisions are we added 2 sidewalk connections out to the public right-of-way. One here on the west side of the driveway, and one here is proposed on the eastern side of the driveway. We'll add some crosswalk hatching there. We'll also be making improvements to the pedestrian crosswalk across the signalized intersection. As part of the project, we're installing a 4th leg to the existing signalized intersection. This site plan has been updated to include the widening of this driveway for an additional right turn lane out, as recommended in the traffic study. So this was widened since you last saw the site plan. Lot coverage calculations were completed for this layout for approximately 20 to 21% green space on both proposed lots. And we have identified the need for potential variance for this canopy structure in the front yard of the building. Green space buffer to this internal property line, just the way the development standard here. I believe we needed 7 or 10 feet of green space, but now that we have the sidewalk connection in here, we're a little efficient for green space on the internal property line. We are meeting it around the perimeter of the development, and then potential signage variances. So as this project continues to move forward, we'll be submitting to the ZBA as necessary when we work through those requirements with the building department. We're here tonight to continue a preliminary review of this conceptual plan. The full team's here to answer any preliminary questions or comments the board may have. We're really looking for any direction that may change this layout. Our next step is to submit a full statement, a full application, including full design drawings, landscape, lighting, and that full design package to continue the review here. Tonight, we could also discuss how the board may want to handle the secret process, the environmental review, as we do see the involvement of the zoning board and New York State DOT on this project. As you mentioned, we did obtain a copy of the fire department comments. No issues there. We can certainly work with them as this project continues to upgrade the 2 fire hydrants that were requested to be further investigated as the project continues forward here. So that's a high-level review since we were here last. I'll open it up to the board for any questions or comments.
We have to coordinate a subdivision also. You're going to combine 3 lots into 2. I don't know exactly how that would be handled. If there's a lot line adjustment.
Yeah, we did speak to the building department. They do want us to submit a full subdivision application that we're working on right now with a map that shows that adjustment. This line right here doesn't exactly fall where a property line exists. So it's a combination of combining lots, but also a lot line adjustment for that property. But we are proposing 2 separate lots at the end of the day.
I assume that would be like a minor, since you're actually reducing it.
With the end result being 2 lots.
And you mentioned that there is coordination with the the zoning board of appeals on several issues. We would probably have to find out who's going to be the lead agency in this. We certainly could request that. But DOT would definitely be involved, DEC would probably be involved, the zoning board, and so forth and so on. So we do have to do a lead agency coordination on that. Another- Yeah. Also, this is gonna have to require a public hearing. We're going to request that, in particular, this, the planning board and the ZBA do a joint public hearing. Cover both things, there's obviously the site plan and the subdivision. So that's something we're gonna have to coordinate with ZBA. And we've done this in the past, so it should work out fine. Steer that pretty well for the people in there.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, so when we get to that point, we'll have to do it.
I know I requested the travel internal to the site. If I'm saying this right, you have 3 order windows. You have 2 windows or some sort of delivery system in which there will be 2 rows of cars which are serviced with the product. And then both of those vehicles are going to come out. Both of those probably are going to want to go to the controlled traffic signal. So how do you have the 2 lanes going into 1 lane to make that 25-degree radius turn back, into where that may be widened up? I think the old one didn't have that much green space. I think you widened that up to make that turn better. But what do you have in that area so you'll be able to zipper the traffic together and get them all over there?
Yeah, so it's a great comment. So we do have 3 drive-through lanes coming in, 2 border, and generally a bypass during a peak time. That would add additional capacity to pull more traffic into the drive-through so it doesn't back up into the site and beyond. And then it would merge to 2 lanes for meal delivery. There's a meal delivery door here. It's not your typical drive-through window that you hand the meal out. It's a window, or it's a door that team members deliver the meal out to the second lane and the first lane. So face-to-face interaction. This 2-lane is, call it 3 years old, a very new prototype here. They've rolled it out across the country, and there are open and operational stores with this template now. And what they've found is the meal delivery happens individually, one meal and then the next. So there's actually a rotation in cars for getting the meals that carries on to the stop car. So it would be kind of an alternate movement as you leave the drive-through. And it's actually done pretty well. Chick-fil-A has an entire traffic safety committee internally that has studied that interaction. They actually deployed 3 lanes all the way through and have 3 lanes exiting for meal delivery and exiting at the same time. That's when they ran into some hiccups, and they've actually they nipped that. So that's why you see the merge, the 2 lanes.
Yeah, because as soon as you get into the building's footprint, you're at 2 lanes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the safety committee internally has approved the 2 lanes, but not the 3 lanes.
What I was going to do was time the light and then get from you guys what the average delivery time is for the product to come out to the cars, and see what that light is and how much that queuing ability is going to take place on that access road. You've helped that out considerably by doing 2 right lanes. So
And your concern would be,
that
is this enough?
right
Safety
is
to get
are
everything
you
else?
going to have so much food coming out where that light is not going to be changing, and you're going to be backed up on your outlet rather than your input? Because you always want queuing on your input, but not so much on your outlet.
Yeah, and if that backs up, then you obviously can't pull cars forward, and it backs up on the back end too.
Yeah. I don't know what your rate of delivery is.
The meal delivery time.
Yeah, when peak times, are you getting them out every 30 seconds? You doing it every minute and a half?
We've looked at ticket times before. Bowler Engineering has partnered with this tenant across upstate New York. We've helped them open stores in Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo market. We're excited to bring it to the capital region with some upcoming openings this month. We've looked at ticket times before, and it varies so much. Can't really nail it down. It's anywhere between 2 minutes and 8 minutes, depending on certain locations.
And what's ordered?
And what's ordered, but average times from the enter the drive-through to when you place your order. So we've done studies, and some data was included in the traffic study of other locations for number of car stacking, peak hours, in addition to analyzing the intersection, but also analyzing how the drive-through operates.
Will Clifton Park be like this?
Clifton Park has the 3 lanes ordered, and it's going to merge to the 2 lanes, but they do have the full 3rd lane bypass. That was before it was modified to merge to the 2 lanes, but they're not going to utilize that outside 3rd lane.
Now, I know you have several stores planned to be open. In the process here, obviously you don't even have to show it on the ground. Is this one of the later ones in the area that's going to be open?
I'll call it phase 2. If the real phase 1 is, I'm not sure if you've driven by the current location, but there's 2 that are going to be opening probably in the next month or so.
Okay.
As phase 1, and this would be phase 2. And there are some other potential opportunities in the capital region that could open around the same time.
The only reason I'm asking that is obviously you anticipate a surge at this place. And I think we've kind of determined that this could be a destination location as far as traffic, not a drive-by like some of the other fast foods are on Hoosick Street. I was just thinking that possibly if there was other stores open before that in the area, that the impact may not be as great in that initial opening.
Yeah,
Do you read into that like that?
we do, and we've kind of studied some other markets. We had the phase 1, 2, and even phase 3 out in the Rochester markets right now, where it does continue to spread out the destination, right? Because with Clifton Park opening, everybody in Brunswick may have to drive to Clifton Park for the next year.
Yeah.
But then we reduce that surge at Clifton Park when we open this store, and as you continue to roll out more stores, it helps diversify that destination type use. The traffic study, and Gordon may be able to get into a little bit more detail on this, but it used a more conservative pass-by distribution than typical ITE, understanding that the first year, as we roll out into the capital region, it may impact more as a destination than your typical quick service restaurant.
Speaking of traffic studies, I think there was some discussion at our last meeting about us conducting an independent traffic study because of the public opinion right now of the traffic on Hoosick Street. And I think that would be in the best interest of
I
the
mean,
town.
independent review, they
Independent,
wouldn't do another study.
an independent review on that? Okay. And you're not opposed to that, I just.
No, we're fine to support that. Study has been submitted, so I'm happy to help pass that along for further review. I don't know if you have any preliminary comments on the study that was submitted to date, but that's it.
No, my only question would be, has DOT seen any of the traffic information or the,
No comments back yet from DOT.
do you have submitted something to
The
DOT?
stage 1.
Stage 1 permit process, right?
They make you follow that work permit process. What we'd like to do is maybe initiate that for secret. We can put that 30-day timeframe on DOT. That generally helps push them along, get you some feedback faster, but we'd like to see delays. but we'll certainly share any feedback we get.
Anybody have any other questions?
I have a few. Snow storage,
Yeah, around the perimeters,
some retaining wall,
we do right now, I believe the applicant is working with this neighbor to be transparent on what's proposed here and potentially grade to eliminate this retaining wall, reduce it for 5 or 6 feet on this retaining wall for the height of it now. So it'd be nice to reduce that a little bit, do that storage in the back of the site and then around the corners for snow storage. And the overall percent of coverage is 20% green space.
what is your alternative location for snow if, when we get a 20-inch dump of snow, I don't know that the green space appears adequate.
Yeah, on those rare occasions, what we often see is they have to haul it offsite. If there's no space for it, that would be their obligation to haul it offsite.
And then I saw that you made some changes to pedestrian access off of the highway, and it's my understanding that you're gonna have pedestrian access to both lots.
We were looking at that, trying to consolidate to one connection, but nobody likes walking out of their way. So if we had one connection on this side of the street, there would still be a crossing internally, so we're gonna do a crossing here and here. What we do around the perimeter of the drive-through is either a vegetation shrub row, we'll have fencing along the retaining wall, but what we don't want is pedestrians crossing the drive-through. So we're channelizing pedestrians around to a stop condition to cross here and enter the store. And then if this was our only connection, nature had its course, people would either walk up our driveway to here, or they might walk to this point and then cross. So we felt it was best to have a separate crossing here so they can utilize the crosswalk that we installed as part of the signal plan.
And then that easternmost sidewalk, is that, doesn't appear to be 4 feet wide.
Yeah, we gotta get into the design a little bit with ramps, and it'll be ADA compliant. We haven't gotten to that level of detail yet.
And then you made a comment about only two lanes for pickup, delivery, and originally we talked about that third lane as a bypass, so I'm wondering if that could, is it there a potential that that could go away and we gain some more green space?
Yeah, what they like for the third lane is one, to, if there is a backup, it's additional storage that they can pull in. And the last thing we want to do is back up onto Hoosick Street, so that's kind of designed the layout here. You have your drive-through entrance as far away from your entrance to the site to really elongate that path for stacking. So it's additional stacking capacity should we need it. And then what's also been a result of COVID is there's been a high volume mobile order. And the planning for the future is if mobile order gets to a certain percentage, that third lane would be deployed for mobile order. So you can still have your normal 2 drive-through lanes, but that third lane would be mobile order. So it's not overwhelming the other drive-through lanes or inside the restaurant.
And then I had a question about the Gore area parking lots, if those could be, were considered to be green space at all? Or green infrastructure in terms of stormwater?
I'm sorry, I missed your first
The,
point.
The
you have
islands?
Gore striping in the parking lots on both sides.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
As well as here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to get a delivery truck in here for deliveries to stock the store. And that path is coming around like this. We could do the striping, could do mountable curb, but there's probably very limited opportunity for green space there with that truck circulation. And given the steepness of Mohawk, we want trucks to utilize the signal and not go out of Mohawk. I think this could be reduced. You know, here, we can certainly do landscaping. This whole area doesn't need to be concrete. We'll do landscaping there. We haven't engaged a landscape architect yet. But we'll get into house.
And then I had a question about the dumpsters at the rear of the easternmost. Are they, not exactly sure how they, appears like that's a one-way loop around.
Yeah, so this is a drive-through. So to enter the drive-through, you would come around here and back out. So any trash pickup would follow this course, pick up and continue out. We did have one way back here originally, but what we were concerned about is if somebody didn't know to make this turn, they're stuck. They would have to circulate through this restaurant use and back over. So this allows parking in the back of these sites as well as circulation.
But if they miss the drive-through,
They would have to circulate back around and go to the drive-through, that's right, but not necessarily parking.
In regards to that eastern site, I don't know if you had a potential tenant for the restaurant, but potentially that could change depending on the restaurant.
Yeah, it's being proposed as a proposed restaurant with drive-through, so the tenant could change. Right now, there is a prospective tenant. It's not 100%. Right now, there is a prospective tenant. It's a low volume drive-through use.
Is there a potential for that to be just a standard restaurant with no drive-through capacity?
Not at this time.
Where do you order on that one?
Actually, it's pickup only. It's a mobile order.
You gotta call your order in,
I believe that's it.
so there's just a pickup window.
In the medical building, that has,
The medical has.
potential, you have a potential tenant for that?
We do, it's about 75% there, and it's actually switching from medical. So last month it was maybe 50% medical, but that has changed, so there's no locked-in tenant yet.
Okay.
We are, it has been revised to retail for medical, so it's a retail, the application's been revised as spec retail for it now.
Does that change the parking requirements if they go to a retail store?
It did, it reduced them a little bit, we maintained the parking count for the medical use, but it reduced the parking count slightly.
Now, taking this all into consideration, is this somewhat of a phased building situation? Are you gonna build the whole thing all together?
As we coordinate the leases during the approvals, if all leases are in place, we'll build them all together.
Okay.
It'd be really tough to do it separately and not impact the other, in that site.
The two sides of the site are slightly staggered, but it's definitely a plan to build all at once.
Okay.
and lighting, start to contemplate site lighting.
We'll do that with the landscaping design. We'll be conscious to our residential neighbors in the back, we'll shut up or full cut off. For the back of the site.
Our town has some particulars about lighting that might. not be common.
Yeah, 18 foot.
I think one of the things that we have to do as a board tonight is possibly discuss the lead agency.
Well, one thing for the board to consider, and I'll take Wayne's input as well, is generally you do commence the lead agency coordination process once the full applications have come in. As I understand it right now, this is a sketch plan. They do have a sketch plan, they have a full EAF, but we don't have the full site plan package yet.
So you've got the bulk, you submit the full application, the full EAF in response to the last meeting, and then I'd say the prime three sheets, you got site grading and utility. And then we're gonna supplement that with the landscape detail, lighting detail.
Had a chance to review all that, Wayne?
Well, they changed the site plan since the initial application.
Mhm.
So I haven't reviewed the site plan as it is now. I think stormwater is going to be a significant part of this review. And I haven't received anything on that. Because it could impact the site depending on what's proposed. Yeah, we're gonna have to go underground, and everybody's familiar with this area. A lot of uphill drainage coming down onto our site, so there is gonna be a significant underground system here. Again, just trying to lock in the layout from this level, and then our next step would be to pull that full design together. As far as secret goes, there's certainly gonna be more application materials to be submitted.
Mhm.
My understanding is as soon as an application is submitted, you tend to initiate the secret process, and then we can supplement it with more information.
Sure, there certainly has to be enough information to circulate to the other involved agencies so that you make a decision on whether to seek lead agency or not. So I just want to make sure there's adequate information here to properly coordinate with the other involved agencies. Certainly Wayne and I can review that.
And do we need the subdivision plat as part of the application? Or is that just, is it gonna be a joint? Or is that something?
Well, many times on the full EAF, page 2 will list all the necessary permits and approvals, and many times a lot of those will be to be submitted. Because clearly the key document here is going to be the site plan, the site layout, the full environmental assessment form, and subject to Wayne's review to see if anything else should be included. Let's see, traffic is going to be an issue here, so we want to make sure that there's something in this package to identify projected traffic that might be adequately described in the EAF. But we want to make sure we get the lead agency coordination information out if that's needed.
Yeah, and that was identified early on to us, the traffic was probably one of the biggest concerns here. So that was submitted prior to the last submission, that was submitted in the first submission with the full traffic impact study with the concept plan. I guess my push, for lack of a better term, or maybe a initiation of secret would be to help us get the DOT process started. If we could say secret was started and try to put a 30-day window on them to give us feedback.
Well, they won't, they won't make any determination without a secret determination.
No determination.
They'll review
We'll have 30 days to ask for more.
motion.
That's been helpful, and it's up to you guys to decide if there's enough information, but that was one item that might help us get that feedback.
One other thing for the board to consider would be allowing Wayne to take a look at the updated plan, whatever changes to the site plan. We can confer, and then you can confirm in 2 weeks' time at your second July meeting, based on Wayne's review, whether you want to start that lead agency coordination, indicating that if it's your desire to do so, that you want to serve as lead agency, we get a chance to make sure we have the information we need to commence that.
I had requested the traffic study in the site plans electronically in the last meeting. I forgot. Probably because you were changing the site.
Well, I know we submitted the full package to the building department, but I did not direct to the
Electronically? If you can send that to me.
Was that for the June 30th submission as well, Tim? Because Wendy wasn't sure if we had gotten that or not.
I know she was I'll send it.
I was gonna say, if you want to send it to me, I can forward it to Wayne, that way we'll both have it.
Perfect.
I agree with Andy. I think we should have Wayne and Andy determine whether there's enough information here, it's adequate information we need to discuss lead agency, and do that in our next meeting on the 20th.
It's fairly routine. Do it all site.
Yep. Any other information that would be helpful ahead of that meeting? We've got traffic study submitted, the full environmental assessment form, we've got preliminary elevations, grading plans, utility plans, that was all submitted. We were kind of waiting on feedback to progress lighting and landscaping. Is the board kind of comfortable with this layout? Not approval or locking it in by any means. Should we start progressing that information as well? Google landscaping design, lighting design, the full package.
I would assume that would be the way you want to do it. Or we would want to do it anyway.
Can you get us
See if the information as clear as we can.
what it's gonna look like from the sidewalk?
Yeah, actually, there was a really good example photo, and this is of other location, so take it with a grain of salt. There was a good photo that we had submitted that kind of demonstrates what this angle is gonna look like from here. And that's this photo. We are gonna have a retaining wall with that black aluminum decorative fence on top of the retaining wall to help buffer some of the drive-through right here, and then it's got the canopy in the background. So that's a very similar rendering of what to expect here.
Obviously, we're working towards the required public hearing for this. I would suggest that we, ZBA, anything that has to go before the ZBA, go before it as soon as possible. They only meet once a month, we meet twice a month. After they have determined that they want to do a public hearing and whether we're going to coordinate that, that's going to be dependent on that joint public hearing I mentioned earlier in the meeting. So, and that's all contingent on the proper materials available for public review, complete site plans and so forth.
Yeah, I do think it's premature for the public hearing. I've got to progress the landscaping drawings and all of that, full package for the public hearing. Let's see, sometimes we can get that started earlier.
And just as an FYI, depending on where the public hearing falls on our schedule, sometimes there's a 3-week difference between them. I don't know where that's gonna fall in the next few months. But generally speaking, we do not schedule the public hearing for the next meeting, but the meeting after that. So there'd be a 4-week period. This is to properly notice according to our regulations. So it won't be, if we determine there's gonna be a public hearing, it won't be the next meeting, probably be the meeting after
So you have to determine it at a meeting to set the public hearing.
that.
We're anticipating to submit to the ZBA next week to get that process going. We can do a preliminary introduction to that board to see if they have any comments. That's what we're trying to get for the ZBA process.
Okay.
That meeting's on July 17th.
Now, do you wish to be on our agenda on the 20th? Obviously you do, I'm assuming.
If the board would like more time before they initiate secret, then yes. If we're doing secret tonight, I think we need more time for a full submission. But if we'd like to wait to do secret at that meeting, then yes, that would be the request for that next meeting.
Okay. We're duly scheduled.
Is that July 20th, you said?
That is the 20th.
All right. Does anyone have any questions before we move along?
The August ZBA is August 21st.
Thank you. Russ, what does the board have to do to get a traffic consultant on board?
Gee, that's funny, I was gonna ask you that.
Well, I'll take that one. So the board will, just for purpose of the record, should make a motion to determine that it seeks to retain independent traffic engineering review consultants. So the town code and the site plan regulations do provide the authority for the planning board to retain necessary review consultants on a particular application. Once that consultant is identified, the board seeks to move forward and retain them. That consultant would provide an estimate of fees, and that would be reviewed by the board. It relates to the applicant, create an escrow to pay for those review fees. So the earlier you start the process on determining that you, in your opinion, need an independent traffic engineering review consultant, then I think coordinating with Wayne can give you some proposals, some names to do that. That's within your discretion to retain.
I get the impression we should do that now.
I think that would be wise to start that. If the board does conclude that, based on Wayne's recommendation, that an independent traffic engineering review consultant be retained for this application review.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Any other supplemental information? You submitted building elevations, any other comments on building elevations or modifications for submitting in that regard? Any other
Did you
documents?
provide like an engineering report, like on water and sewer and?
No, just the utility package.
You really should,
The full EAF package on that,
EAF does.
the full EAF has the water.
Typically, we like to see an engineering report, kind of summarizes.
Do you need the full SWIP or just the drainage study for this? Or is it a review?
I don't need the full SWIP, just the drainage study. And, design. As much information as you can.
All right, I think we're all done.
Great.
We will see
Thank
you
you
on
all
the
for your
20th.
time. Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is the Courier Site Plan and Special Use Permit.
Hello again after, like 4
Yes,
weeks.
quite a delay.
I know, right, trying to get our stuff, trying to get my stuff together.
All right.
I brought with me Walt Vanderbilt, consultant engineer.
Perfect.
Also, we got, I did a resubmission of the questions that we got about, was it 4 or 6 weeks ago? That Mr. Bonefield had and, Fred, I think, answered most of those questions, I hope. And, I guess I'll just wait for questions, or, I don't know if you've looked at anything yet.
Well, just as, for the record,
Sure.
we just received the hard copies of this.
Right, I think I brought it in yesterday.
So, I don't know how much people, there was some accessibility to it online.
Yeah, I sent the email out.
Yeah, but this is the first time we're really going to take a look at
Okay.
it. Let's go over the site plan. I know there were some questions on traffic flow and parking, those type of things. So we can take a look at that. See if we have any immediate questions.
If I may, I think previously the board had asked for the fire district comment on the traffic layout, and there's a request pending with the fire district on that, so that is an open item we've got.
Okay.
And I think our purpose here tonight is just try to update where things are with this and try to figure out if there's a list of items so we can push the thing along. Kind of, you got a trifecta here tonight. You got marijuana,
Yeah, right.
Chick-fil-A, and now childcare.
Yeah, right.
Can't ask for a better agenda. Huh?
That's about it, yeah, I was gonna say.
All right. I'll let you have the floor. You can, like, we did have some concerns about the traffic flow and the parking, how it was angled and so forth and so on.
And I think most of that was depicted.
Drop off area.
Yeah, most of that was depicted kind of incorrectly on the actual form.
Okay,
Right now, the flow coming in and out is more depicted, and the parking lot, that number, I can't see the camera glasses on, is it 12 or something? It's been depicted better, the flow was better. And the pickup, he says, I don't remember what the pickup was, the drop off and pickup issue.
well, we assume that at a certain time of the day, there's going to be cars flowing in and out.
Oh, yes,
And,
You're concerned about the circulation.
yeah, circulation,
Yeah.
especially with the cars parked and so forth and so on.
And I guess maybe the best way to address that is with some additional pavement parking and layout and you've raised that question and we'll try to address that in a supplemental submission.
Okay.
I think Walmart dimensions would help out a lot,
Okay.
you know, there's no dimensions on it. You can't really tell how much space you have.
And you know you don't want to scale it, so. I get it, yes. Okay, fair enough. So
I thought a long time ago on the scale.
we'll, yeah, another dimension.
You know, the dimensions of the driveway and the lanes in and out, maybe a typical, parking space, and then maybe some dimensions across the parking lot, so we know what kind of room we have there for circulation.
I mean, my sense is that there is plenty of room there, but I think the point is let's show it on paper that satisfies that question. That's a fair comment, so.
About
And-
site distances, then?
Site distance, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there's-
I know where it is, and,
Yeah.
how it is, but, you know, it's usually.
It's straight and flat.
Yeah, since they put that light in, there's plenty of gaps to get in and out.
Yeah.
So,
And maybe, I guess to the point that the drop off and pick off at the peak time and maybe we can look at that with the parking, basically to accommodate that issue, address that issue about the circulation with, at the peak times of drop off, because I guess it's a drop off in the morning and pick up in the evening.
Is there a designated parking places for employees?
yeah, there will be.
So I think we need to designate those, and we probably need to, basically, we probably should designate some drop-off and pickup spots as well.
I know that you had mentioned the handicap, you depicted that, but we do need to depict the employee parking.
Remind us how many employees? you think?
Roughly 6 to 8, including myself and then a office manager.
I think we figured out 16 spaces that we needed. Is that paved now?
It is.
Yes,
You gonna be doing any additional paving? Right now, no.
I think the existing paving area, I think that it's anticipated, it's the existing, there are no changes to the pavement.
All right.
Well, where's the dimensions on this one? The second page.
It's got the parking there.
That's the.
Oh, there you go. You've already done it.
Just not for the overall lot, that's all.
Well,
But I think the question really is, like I said, spaces designated for drop off and pickup.
correct.
Can you identify what the lease area is?
What area did you say?
The lease area You're not leasing the whole 4 acres, are you?
No, just leasing that one little blue building.
But, and I think it's implied that the perimeter there, that is shown is the leased area, that's implied, I think we'll confirm that and so designate it. There is an arrangement for the dumpster on the adjacent tenancy. But we can more clearly delineate what the tenancy is, sure.
Yeah. You're gonna have to sign a lease with the guy, and you have to lease the area will have to be identified. If you're gonna use behind the building, you're leasing that as well.
Is the other building occupied? I think I asked this question before.
It's,
The red building,
the red building, when you say occupied, the guy that owns the whole property, his name is, Jamie Ortiz. He owns a lot of restaurants, and he has all of his restaurants put in, and everything he owns in that building.
okay.
There's a couple offices that I think he uses, and maybe his realtor uses, but that's it.
Okay. But there's not like an active tenant in it.
Nothing.
It's basically a storage use, so there's not a lot of traffic there now.
The outdoor play area is gonna be sod or
It's gonna be what?
grass?
I don't think it's gonna be grass, I'm looking at the, not the sod, but the, it's like a rubber, like little rubber pallets or, yeah, something like that.
Something that offers safety and
Yes,
falls.
please.
Yeah.
Not crushed one.
That brings out character in children.
We all
Making the
play
stones
that.
out of their knees.
All right.
But I was gonna suggest that with the parking, even though you have 17 spaces, I mean, actually, they could use the other parcels, a crusher run. And your employees could park right up in here and just walk across that grass area.
Right,
And leave the rest of the parking. But of course, that's something you've got to agree with the owner of the property.
right.
My understanding is, I think there were been a little bit of a chicken and egg thing with the engineering report on the septic. That is in the works right now. So hopefully I think we're hopeful to be back here in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll get that submitted to the board in a timely way in advance of that meeting. And also the comments, hopefully the sign off from the fire district on any questions they may have. I don't think, and then the items we've discussed here about the delineation of the tenancy and the circulation and the parking arrangements. I don't know if there's any other items that are of leap out to the board or the staff on this.
I know there were some questions I remember the questions on the septic system.
Which, yeah,
Yeah.
and we're working on that now, so.
And this does have public water, correct?
No, it doesn't have public water yet, no,
No.
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 The public
They're
water is
hoping
supposed to
that
come in
it'll
with the
come through.
apartments.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah, the public water is supposed to come in with the apartments.
Right.
Yeah.
And when's that gonna happen? No. You guys know?
So in the meantime, I assume there's a well somewhere.
Correct.
Am I missing it on the drawing or is it? Or is it on?
I'll confirm the layout on that.
So, I mean, right now, if you have well water, we have to consider that that's part of the approval process.
Sure, yeah.
And, depending on where it is, we obviously can't have it next to the septic system. So, it would be important to find out exactly where that well is.
Very, very good. We can, again, we'll get that information. I apologize, that's something we overlooked when we were going over this the last couple of days. So.
That's fine. That's why we're all here. Right?
And you got another meeting in 2 weeks. So that's-
Yeah. Yeah, we're an oddity when it comes to planning boards. We have usually once a month. Usually, most planning boards are only once a month. So,
This will have a public hearing.
So on a site plan, it's discretionary, but it's mandatory for special permits, so there will be public.
And it goes to county because it's on the state highway.
Correct, county highway, right there, yep. Is it county or state?
So Route 40.
County.
That's
It's an overlay, it's a state route overlay, but that's a county road.
But
Like
regardless,
45.
yes, we'll go
The
to.
the map says Route 40. So
That's state. Route 40 state.
But it should say County Route 140.
So we have to notify the county.
Yes, it will need to go to the county.
That letter will be sent out, okay? Yeah, we just discussed that, there will be a public hearing for public site, the special use permit. So, is there any involvement with the ZBA on this?
I don't believe so.
You don't need any variance.
Have you seen any need for variances?
No, it meets the setbacks and everything, so. we're good.
So once we get as much complete information as we can to present to the public, we will have the public hearing. And as I explained before, right now, our public hearings are not the following meeting, but the meeting after that, for a 4-week period at least.
So, assuming we're able to come back here on the 20th, if we'll be able to be on the agenda for the 20th, we're back here on the 20th. If everything is in good order, we could then schedule for the public hearing for the second meeting in August. I think that's what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay. And then,
That would be August 17th.
okay, thank you. And in regard to the coordination with the county, do I understand you can initiate that now, or is that pending something else?
As soon as the public hearing's announced, and in our opinion, the design is solidified enough to be able to send to the county.
Okay,
So once the public hearing is announced, it will go to the county.
all right, very good.
And that takes, they have a 30-day response time on that, so it'll pretty much coordinate with when with everything, so. Yeah, we'll do that. Does anybody have any additional questions? Wayne, are you out of questions?
Well, I would like to review them based on my comments and see if they've addressed those,
Okay.
if they have.
Sure, and we can follow up and try to make sure and again, I apologize that the submittal obviously was not timely. I would ask one other question. There was a submission of a simple elevation, and I think the intention is basically nothing sophisticated as the proposed Chick-fil-A. So just basically just to infill in that, and I guess that would be my only other question, if there was any concern about the building elevation beyond what we've presented here. And I'm assuming that was submitted. Yes, okay.
In this package.
Okay. Also give us the board members a chance to review this.
Sure. Okay.
So this will work out well. We'll put you on the agenda for the 20th.
All right, very good.
And we'll keep the process going. You'll be second on the agenda, obviously, the Chick-fil-A is going to be. Appreciate you going through the whole process here. Spending time watching everybody else.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you. We'll see you on the 20th. Okay, that concludes our regular agenda. Just before we get into any new business, we did receive a application, I believe, for a waiver from Maxwell.
Oh,
And that
yes.
was tabled because of,
They need to be approved by the zoning board first.
well, I thought there was an issue with, if they're gonna tear the building down that they're already trying to get, what's the point of doing the subject?
They decided to keep the building.
Okay,
So it does that does not meet does not meet the setbacks. So they are currently, they've put an application into the zoning board. They should have, we have the public hearing set for the next meeting, right, Andy? Yeah. So hopefully we'll have some answers at that point.
okay. Do we put them on our agenda for our next meeting, or is that still pending?
The timeline would work within 3 days. The meeting's on the 17th, right, for zoning?
You could. Could place them on for July 20th, you could place them on for your first meeting in August, up to you. But it is scheduled for is that July 17th, you say, the Monday? Yeah, the 17th.
Any comments?
Come on.
Put them on? Okay, we'll tentatively put them on.
Okay.
If there's a problem with the zoning board, then we will,
Take them off.
I'll take them off. Okay. Okay, new business. Ready? Oh. Mr. Morelli, yes.
I do that.
How are
Good. Here a few months. Thank you. I got a brief handout, just what I'm looking for is Diamond Rock Plaza. Obviously, we've had some issues in getting it rented, COVID and everything else. We've had 2 spaces rented, and we're looking at, this gentleman wants to do a cannabis retail dispensary store in one of the spaces. And that's what we're basically here for, to find out what the procedure would be to get him into that spot. And it's on you're looking at the building from the road, is the left-hand space. Kind of marked it up in yellow on your hand out there. And it's a 2,000 square foot space. It's basically finished off pretty much, except for some interior finishes with some lights and safety equipment, and some shelving and stuff like that. We have the sufficient parking, sprinkler system throughout the building, separate heating, ventilating, air conditioning system for that space. And we've got the Knox box on the building already. And we're ready to go. It's just, we've been struggling to get tenants into that spot. We've got numerous daycare people ask if it's not allowed in that zone. So, we're not sure about that anyways. But, originally, that space was gonna be a Arby's, and the franchisee guy that has one down in Wolf Road loved the site, but his national people come up and looked at it, didn't like the color of the building. So we weren't about to change the color of the building for him.
Have you heard of paint?
I got a new image. It's a new image.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the vinyl siding, we got the stone, we got the big roof.
No, it's a nice looking building.
It's just that, we couldn't convince their national people with their new protocol that they got with their new process they've got going, so.
Well,
Eli Gray is the licensee to give me the tenant in
okay,
that space, and he's gone through the procedure with the state Office of Cannabis Management. And I think he's ready to go. And we just need to know exactly what the procedure would be.
well, it's, Andy and I had a conversation this afternoon on this. And this is a retail application. We were trying to figure out if the new zone in here is light industrial through there.
It is, yes.
But when you were approved for your strip mall here, it did include retail.
Yes.
So we're trying to determine whether you need to be before us at all.
Right,
I enjoyed the nights here, but that's something I'm gonna.
so the process would be, I think first it's ultimately with the building department to review, to determine whether the proposal that you described, now you've handed up in the written materials, triggers the need for any planning board review. And that'll simply be a review by the building department under our site plan regulations and zoning code. And that initial determination, as much as you might want to get into it, is not a planning board issue, it's a building department issue. So I think the order of business would be to allow the building department to review that to determine if there's any trigger for planning board review.
I can do that.
Okay. Now, just so you know, the previous one just got approved. There was a discussion about that also. However, when we went back and checked the PDD for the wall logs in that closet, it was determined that we had the right to request a site plan review for any new tenants. We chose, under the circumstances, to go through the process and review that site plan. This case here, you know, it was determined to be a retail business, obviously by the state. This is basically the same process, but you are licensed to do that. And you have no other contingencies on your original site plan approval for us to question that unless the tenant status changed. In other words, you're getting a retail person in there, and it was retail before. So if you came in with some other thing that was not in that, for that location, then we would review it. So now, based on his explanation, we are now.
Right, it will be subject to, as I said, building department review, but in general, the triggers for site plan review are a new use, new proposed construction or new use, a change of use, or if there is any change to the structure of the existing structural element that's being changed. Those are under our site plan regulations, the triggers, a new use, a change of use, or structural change to the existing building, regardless of new or change of use. So that'll get reviewed by the building department based on this information, and just check the zoning law to confirm there's nothing else that's potentially triggered. Probably take a look at the underlying site plan approval for the, and Russ was correct, that the reason the prior cannabis dispensary went through the procedure it did is that site is a planned development district. And when we went back and took a look at the approvals back from the mid-90s, there was a section dealing with tenant approval that the town determined was triggered. And so that did go through the site plan review process for a new tenant on that. So it had to be determined whether that same process is required here.
So you're gonna review it, Chuck, and then you're gonna
Send a letter out to
You're
you
gonna
guys.
get with Mr. Murley and tell him which way he has to go, and then we bring it back before the planning board if need be, and that'd be it.
Sounds good.
How many,
Appreciate it.
how many tenants do you have in there now?
We've got two. We've got the central nursing, which is like visiting nurses. And we got Bernie Bus, I had a small office at the far end. And he's pretty much, I think, going to end this month or next month. So, because he lost the Lansingburg School District contract. And we're going to put the buses on the parking lot to the north. And we got a lot of opposition from the City of Troy residents across the street.
Yeah,
And they did get the contract for Lansingburg. They got one down in Kingston, so they moved everybody down to Kingston, but they retained the office space and what have you. It's probably gonna be abandoned for their offices probably by the end of this month. But hopefully I get somebody else in there, but it's all finished, ready to go, and
So you got two, well, not count,
Two, yes.
two, and these,
He would be the third.
And there's
We're still hoping for a gas station convenience store that it was originally approved for, but they've kind of went, like the dinosaurs, no longer building them anymore. But Cumberland Farms, there's been some recent things about Cumberland Farms, so we sent them off a letter already a couple of weeks ago about, they want to expand again, but they've been bought by several different companies, went from Ohio to England to Montreal. Now it's back in Connecticut somehow, and it possibly may be expanding again, but I'm not too sure about that. We still got the room for the convenience store and the front portion where the gas pumps would be.
Right.
I'm thinking that it's, you never know what's gonna happen.
car wash is no longer,
Car wash is no longer, and hopefully we'll be coming in shortly to, first, I believe we had to go to the town board for a zone change. If we've been talking to a grocery store about putting a grocery store in that lot, but it would be, have to be a B15. Right now, it's a light industrial. We've submitted a information to the supervisor about requesting a zone change for that particular parcel. Maybe get a grocery store in there.
okay.
Do you have your license?
My name is Elijah Anselsberger.
Elijah.
And my name is Greg. And my wife and I own Turning Point Cannabis, and we have our license
Okay.
awarded from the OCM. We're number 273. We were awarded on the third round on April 3rd. And if I could say one more thing, I think that Mr. Murley's building was a great building, and it's really Arby's loss.
Are your other locations in the 2,000 square foot range?
There's no other locations. We are preliminary approved through the OCM through their site survey.
Okay.
So they have given us approval. So then now what I have to do is gather the permissions from the towns, and then do the build out and get it ready, install the security systems and the alarms and whatnot, and have my security plan and whatnot reviewed by them. And then I will receive final approval for the location, which will be secured to my license.
Now, I'll do the review as to whether the board, has to look at this or not, but you will still have to deal with me. For the tenant fit up and everything else.
So we got the same architect that's done the other two build outs there, so see if he's still available to do that. If not, Eli may have something different.
It won't be as complex as a Chick-fil-A.
No drive-through lanes. That's a good thing.
All right.
What was your approval, Tom? Do you remember? Just when I go back and start looking at the records.
2016, 15, in that ballpark.
I think
It's
so.
been a while.
Was it? Yeah, it was before I started here. Okay. All right. Well, give me a spot to look. Thank you.
It went crazy back in those days. It's wild.
Anybody have any questions? Then maybe we'll see you, maybe we won't.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's the original for the stormwater agreement.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, and I got the copy for Bill. I'm gonna give the Chuck.
Is there any other business, Chuck?
that's the original.
That is it. Thank
And
you.
All right.
then one for
Any
Bill
old
Bradley and
business
the
anybody
two
wants to
maps are in
discuss?
for you.
Okay, just to review our agenda, we have Marie's Muse LLC, which is a Chick-fil-A. I want to talk about Chick-fil-A.
Chuck's got two.
And Courier, and then we have Maxwell as a tenant. So there's two items definite on our agenda for next week. I don't believe there's anything else. Am I missing anything, Tom?
Nope.
What happened with the Roxy Premier?
I saw him today and we'll see. He is shooting for the 20th, but I said he would come in as new business. So he wouldn't be put on the agenda.
He's not dead.
All right.
No.
Anybody have any questions on the agenda? Anybody have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
So if you're a retail
Oh, look, Dave.
place that doesn't have a approval thing.